3 teenagers are dead. A school principal has been practicing hypnosis, and there has been a $600,000 payout. And the media keeps asking the wrong question. The question is not, can hypnosis kill? The question is, why was somebody working unlicensed, untrained, unsupervised with vulnerable students? Because if you actually watch the documentary, there's a lot of critical information missing. No formal psychological autopsies, no detailed exploration of prior mental health issues, no discussion of adolescent risk factors, no analysis of suicide contagion. Instead, this documentary relies on editing. It's sensationalized. There is a juxtaposition. There's emotional reactions, because that's why we watch TV, for the drama. Language like hypnotized to death. It's clickbait. It's a headline. It's not the truth. So what do we know about Dr. George Kenney? He was trained at the Omni Hypnosis Center in Sarasota, Florida, which is a 5-day course. He attended a 5-day course with Gerald Klein. It's a basic introductory course to hypnosis in general, not stage, not clinical, not therapy. It's just an introduction course. He also took great interest in the stage hypnotists when they were doing their annual shows and would help out. So this is somebody that had real interest in hypnosis, performing, and therapy. From the clips I've seen, he's demonstrating more stage-style inductions, which is probably why he got better results than most hypnotherapists.
A bizarre case involving a high school principal who hypnotized students.
Marcus Freeman, age 16, died in a car accident after hypnotizing himself.
So Marcus Freeman died in a car accident, age 16. Some of the reports, mainly from his girlfriend Carly being in the car, say he hypnotized himself. He was doing some kind of self-hypnosis. If you are doing self-hypnosis, you wouldn't do it in a car. He's been hypnotized. He knows how it goes. That would never happen in a car. If you're doing self-hypnosis, you have to willingly go into trance, which would involve you closing your eyes, putting your body in a nice, relaxed position. So self-hypnosis in a car, no, that is absolutely not what he was doing.
And as soon as she got out of the car, she just ran up to me and crying. And we held each other for a while. And that's when she told me the exact steps of what happened. When they were driving down I-75, they were singing in that truck Firework by Katy Perry. She looked over at him. His arms were 10 and 2. He was locked up behind the wheel, and his eyes were rolled back in the back of his head. Like he was hypnotized per se. She yelled at him, screamed at him, beat his arms to try to get him off the steering wheel. And then all she remembers was they started to drift slowly. Just very slow. They went down into the ditch and they hit a tree. She woke up in the hospital yelling, "Where's Marcus? Where's Marcus? Where's Marcus?" It's crazy. I didn't know what to believe.
And the rumor started in school that it had to do with hypnosis.
So in this clip, Carly has obviously reported that Marcus's arms were locked. His head went back and his eyes rolled. That is something that a hypnotist would do on a stage. They would do an arm lock. They would get you to lock your arms. It's not an easy thing to achieve, even with a hypnotist present. So for somebody to be able to do that on their own is nigh on impossible. Could Dr. Kenney have planted some suggestion to make that happen? If he was an excellent hypnotist, likely. It is likely. Very difficult, but likely. Marcus would also probably know that those suggestions were given unless he'd used amnesia. That would also mean that Dr. Kenny was deliberately trying to cause some harm, which, as the documentary goes on, you can see quite clearly that is not the case. So for somebody to lock their arms like that, head to go back, eyes to roll, under hypnosis, possible. To be brought on by themselves, impossible. To be planted by someone as a trigger, I'm saying 1% plausibility here.
Good Morning America tracked down the very first student Kenny ever treated.
After the hypnosis, my score went up by 500 points.
And I would do it every single time. And I think that the fact that I was so susceptible to it was the reason why Dr. Kenny put me in this state of having to do it for testing. And the next day, I took that test and I breezed through it, and I've never breezed through a test. And he would tell us to do, they kind of seemed like they were a little bit over the top.
Now they're blue there, don't try to move on.
It was nothing that was too provocative or too overbearing that nobody could handle or anything like that. It was just all a fun.
Here we go. What is love? Come on, dude. 2 minutes.
So even though Dr. Kenny wasn't actually trained as a stage hypnotist or a therapist, from the clips, it's quite clear he is helping people. He's obviously got a gift for this. He's obviously done some self-study, and he is able to get some good results, which is fantastic. But what it's also showing, these clips of him doing mini shows, is he's practicing. He's practicing on all areas of hypnosis. He's doing a bit of stage, he's doing a bit of therapy. Basically, it's unsupervised practice.
Oh, I'm getting chills.
And breathe out and hold it. Breathe out your own shoulders.
No, I can't watch this. Oh, I'm sorry. How do you do that to kids? It just, it kills me. Sorry.
So this is where the documentary is really dramatized. This person is obviously biased. They have already made up their decision that Dr. Kenny is responsible for these deaths and hypnosis is responsible for these deaths. So as soon as he is watching that, he is responding to his own bias there. It's like watching somebody actually commit murder to him, because that's what he says is responsible. The actual clips of him doing hypnosis shows him, in the most part, doing effective hypnosis. He's getting really good results. He has a natural flair for this.
It's unconventional, for sure.
Split. All the way down, split.
He would do a dissension, which is getting you to relax.
Work. Split.
And then once you've gotten to an extremely relaxed state, then you have kind of it's not an implantation of an idea, but it's a reinforcement of what you're trying to do.
Look me. Look twice. Count 6. Let's go.
6, 12, 18, 24, 30.
It's almost like a dog. You tell a dog to sit and the dog will sit. That is an incredible form of mind control, I guess.
Dr. Kenny has a good skill set, probably better than most hypnotherapists out there. They talk about dissension, which is the induction part. Again, he uses more of a stage induction than we would in therapy. What they are saying about the sessions is right. Having somebody drop their head into your lap is completely inappropriate. It would never happen in a therapy room. Also, touching is likely a no-no. This is quite a while ago, but still, touching anybody, you would first ask their permission. And with kids, this is just not something you would do. You would record all sessions, or a parent would be present. And this is where it really shows that he's had no ethical training, he's had no proper therapy training, because he's all confidence and no sense, unfortunately.
I mean, there was even times where he'd come back to the sidelines and just have like a blank stare. And just staring at the football field. He'd be that kid that was, everybody would be down here, and Marcus is down here staring at the field, waiting to go back in. Like maybe he's in a trance, I don't know.
So the blank stare is just a normal everyday state. Everybody stares. Everybody daydreams. He was given sessions to be highly focused on the game, and that's what he was doing. But what they're doing in the documentary is just mystifying it. It's everything he's doing is what I would expect you to be doing. If I'd hypnotized you to be so focused on getting an amazing result in that game, I want you ultra focused, even on the sidelines. So what he's describing is perfect. That's what he was supposed to be doing.
Reporting on a community like Northport, or like smaller communities in general, it sort of felt like a rumor mill. There was a lot of sort of secondhand information. You can see how the truth can get away from you. I had an editor in a New York sister paper reach out to me and being like, this is doing so well on our website, we're getting more traffic. They wanted me to keep writing about it, so I ended up writing 3 stories.
It was a story nationwide. It was even a story in Europe and in Australia.
So now the media have got hold of this story and it's getting so much traffic. They need to keep the story going. It's getting hits. It's earning people money. And the students are getting attention. The press is all over. Everyone's getting excited. It's being sensationalized hugely.
And you're still gonna judge me or nothing. Just wanted to help me. When all I thought was, that this world is better off without me.
I have talked with many students who have been seriously depressed and some that have been suicidal. I've had students come back later and say, I was thinking of killing myself, but you were someone who listened.
You're a valuable person. You're the only person of your kind.
He let me know I was loved. Because I didn't think I was.
So Dr. Kenny obviously had a big impact on people's lives. He got some amazing results. And quite frankly, that can be addictive. When you can help people at that level, you want to help more people. Now, even when therapists are trained, they very often veer from their safe scope of practice. And what I mean by this is I'm in hypnotherapy groups and people will post in those groups saying, I have a client coming tomorrow with PTSD. How do I treat them? That tells me that they do not have the training to treat this client and they are trying to get information from a hypnotherapy group full of hypnotherapists and other people that are just hobbyists that are giving them information. This is abhorrent. But it's something that's quite common because people want to help. And this is where hypnotherapists or hypnotists start with this God complex where they think they can cure cancers, where they can think they can make people walk again after they have had a life in a wheelchair. They start to over-exaggerate how much they can help. And it can be quite dangerous.
The weight room incident specifically is what started getting more people involved. There had been a weightlifting injury in the weight room that involved a student. It appeared to be a fairly serious injury. The school nurse was trying to perform an evaluation on the student prior to EMS arrival. Dr. Kenny showed up in the weight room and attempted to get the student to focus on him in an effort to relieve the pain.
They had walkie-talkies in the school, and she was called on the walkie-talkie. He had a walkie-talkie as well, and he beat her there and was trying to get her away from the kid. And she was adamant about it, that she was the school nurse and that she had a right to be there.
I heard over the radio they were calling for an ambulance. My office was really close to that area, so I went over there, and I got there before the nurse got there. And this kid had been lifting weights. He was lifting something really heavy, and both shoulders had gone out of joint. And he was in a lot of pain. I knelt down to him, and I just started tapping on his forehead. And I said, I want you to take a nice deep breath, and I want you to listen to my voice. And the only thing that's important is listening to my voice. And it was very effective. People that are hurt are very willing because they're looking for some kind of help, and they're in pain.
The school nurse was like livid. Like, I'm sorry, but you are not supposed to be helping this kid with their breathing or their mental state. You called 911, back off. You know, I don't care that you're the principal. This is not what you should be doing.
Why did he run to beat the nurse there? You know, because of his narcissism.
So there is the weightlifting injury. Dr. Kenny had attended this injury. There was a nurse and Dr. Kenny. So from the nurse's point of view, the nurse wants to treat him. I don't know how she was going to treat him. I don't know whether she was going to give any painkillers or she was just going to do an assessment. From her point of view, she's saying that he got in the way, he took over. From Dr. Kenny's point of view, he was trying to help the boy with pain, with staying calm, which is fine. So if there is some kind of an incident, you know, if there's a train and somebody collapses, I might think I can help being a hypnotherapist. If there's a nurse there or a doctor, I will allow the nurse or doctor to treat the casualty. If there were nobody there to help, then I might step forward and offer to try and help disassociate from what is going on in the body. It can be very helpful in these stressful situations, in these panicky situations. But in this clip, we don't really know what's going on. Did he just help out and take the pain away while they were waiting for the ambulance, or did he get in the way of proper medical care? Who knows?
And re-experience that particular experience as it was remembered. And anything that that person saw, anything that that person heard, is all there.
You and I are going to go back into time. We're going to go back in time to a night when you're in your bedroom and you're sound asleep. But it's going to be the night where you hear a bang. You know now something you didn't know then. What is that sound?
A gunshot.
Okay. It's a gunshot.
Regression. So most people who are trained in regression can cause damage. We know that. Never mind somebody that isn't trained at all. This could be very dangerous. And the real crime here is that he was just so desperate to practice. He was addicted to the buzz of helping people that he practiced without a license. He practiced without proper training. He practiced without proper supervision. So let's talk about training here. In the US, hypnotherapy is licensed. You have to have a license to train or practice as a hypnotist or a hypnotherapist, which is great. It's a much safer way to work. Obviously, he ignored these laws and went ahead, which is why he had a case brought against him, or rather, why the school had a case brought against them. In the UK, there is no licensing, there is no laws, so anybody can practice. And anybody does practice. Now, there's different levels of qualifications in the UK. You can have academic training, which is usually at a university. People that go through academic training, like I have been taught by multiple lecturers, so you get a more rounded view. You are taught multiple interventions, so you have lots of different tools to call upon. There is lots of supervision. There is case studies that you have to go through, and you always have to complete logged hours. So for instance, an introductory course will have a minimum of 100 hours logged client time before you can go out and practice on the general public. A slightly more advanced course would have something like 450 hours of logged client hours before you can go out and practice. That's very often where professional qualifications are lacking. So a professional qualification is Joe Bloggs down the street suddenly opens up as a college and puts a diploma in hypnosis on. They teach one method, there's one tutor, and they can do a year's course, 6 months course, and the person is qualified as a hypnotherapist. That is a professional qualification. And generally, there's no guidelines on that. There's no rules. There's not as many client hours. Very often, I have seen hypnotherapists that have been taught over a few weeks, not able to make it as a hypnotherapist, so open up a hypnotherapy training school and start training other people on how to be a hypnotherapist. Very dangerous.
And all hypnotized by their principal.
You have hypnosis, you have 2 suicides and a car accident. I don't believe in coincidences.
It just blew up when people put the hypnotizing and the deaths together.
We felt that the investigation led us that Dr. Kenny had committed a crime.
It was almost like they couldn't say, there's nothing here.
As it's documented there, they were looking for a scapegoat, and hypnosis is unusual. To some people, it's weird because they don't know how it works. To some people, it's mystical or it's devilish. So it's an easy thing to blame. When people don't understand something, they will blame it. So hypnosis is taking the fall here. They didn't go into the details of the suicide cases. The initial car crash would have had an impact on the mental health of the community without a shadow of a doubt. When a suicide follows, each event adds that psychological weight. And in adolescence, that cumulative effect can increase the risk. That's why science talks about contagion and clustering, not single cases.
5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Sitting up, take a deep breath and see how good you feel.
It's like I feel relaxed, but I felt like I was in a crippling state.
Oh. Okay, so shake my hand.
No.
Shake my hand. Just relax. Now I want you to count backwards from 10 to 1. Count slowly.
10, 9, 8,
more relaxed.
7,
6, more relaxed.
5, 4, 3.
Sleep.
So why, after you have been through everything you've been through, would you then on TV put somebody in that vulnerable state? So first of all, he makes him drop, and this is one of the reasons why we don't drop people like that in therapy situations. Yes, on stage. Stage is entertainment, like going ice skating is entertainment. If you get bumped and bruised, that's fine. It's entertainment, it's fun. In a therapy setting, it is not the tea. We do not put people on the floor. We do not put people in uncomfortable positions. It's just not the done thing when you're trying to help somebody. So you would never put them in that state. Then what I see that rings alarm bells is he says, "Shake my hand." The guy says no, and he continues anyway. That is without consent. So he is still putting his ego in front of ethics. That is reckless. In conclusion, the settlement was for $600,000. That wasn't a ruling that hypnosis caused these deaths. It was a civil settlement against the school board for allowing unqualified activity to take place on grounds. No liability was admitted and no causation was proven. I am 100% of the belief that hypnosis was not responsible for the car crash. It's virtually impossible. There is also no scientific evidence that hypnosis can cause suicide. But there is strong evidence that poorly managed states, authority dynamics, adolescent vulnerability, and lack of safeguarding can destabilize at-risk individuals. And with suicide, it's important to be precise. Suicide is multifactorial. Even in clinical psychology, it's extraordinarily difficult to attribute a single cause. So Dr. George Kenny showed promise as a hypnotist or a hypnotherapist. Unfortunately, he wasn't properly trained. He didn't do client hours. He was trying to clock up client hours in his own school, untrained, unsupervised, unlicensed, and he paid the price, quite rightly so.